Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Andrew Scott Templeton, the first, with my really good friend.
I don't know if we're really good friends.
Whoa, savage move already knocking me.
I'm kidding. Yeah, we're good friends. But yeah, no, it's good to be here. Weather's perfect. It's a cool city. We're like, I don't know if people know this. We can't turn the cameras around. Like, we're at the top of some building in Dallas, and there's a beautiful view of the city. It's a great place to be.
45th floor, 360-degree views. I'm staring at the Trinity River right now. It's awesome. But you didn't introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Rowe.
Yeah, Rowe. Stipe?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah,
All right. Hey,
yeah.
welcome.
We're good,
we are back after some time with Shine and Delight. And today's podcast is kind of catching up where we've been, who we are, and why we're doing this, kind of things like that.
Yeah. We started this, about a year ago?
Almost a year ago now.
About a year ago. And, the simple mission was, we love Jesus. We all live in Dallas. Let's turn on a microphone and tell people about Jesus all over the world. And that's what we've been doing for the last year. But we did take a little bit of a hiatus starting in November, I think.
Yeah.
We took a couple months off, but we're back at it. We have videography equipment now. We're, looking over Dallas. So I would say we've kind of gone up a little bit.
Well, hey, it's just meeting people, loving people well,
yeah,
and just seeing what doors open up in that sense.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the hiatus has been good between school and work and relationships with my wife, friends, school. You know how it is.
Yeah. So tell me, what have you been doing in the last couple months?
Well, my wife and I bought a house.
Okay.
Which is really exciting. We bought a house actually in the South Dallas area, which is like south of I-30, kind of in the southeast Dallas. It's also known as Fair Park, which is where the Texas State Fair is. Come on. Like one of the biggest state fairs in the world, I'm pretty sure, or in the United States. I don't know how big fairs get elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it is, I'll just casually throw it out there, it's more of the impoverished areas in Dallas.
Okay.
Shortest lifespan and one of the lowest, in the state of Texas, shortest lifespan. Because there's so many shootings and drug-related deaths, and one of the lowest income levels in the state of Texas. And so we felt called to move down there. We've been living in the north part of that area. I felt called to move a little bit further south, bought a house, spent February and part of March renovating it, and finally have our kitchen done, and we're unboxing stuff. So that's what I've been up to. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's awesome. And how do you like it so far?
So far, great. I would say the cool thing is a little slower paced.
Okay.
I like people sitting on the front porch, getting to know my neighbors a lot. I'm just trying to love them well. Got a little 5-year-old neighbor who comes over all the time across the street. His mom comes over, just met his 17-year-old brother, just got out of juvie, talking to him a lot, which has been really cool. So a lot of neat things happening, and our church is only a mile away from there, which is even great. I haven't walked to church, but I do want to get like a golf cart or something to drive to church like that. I think it'd just be fun.
Okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, man, it's kind of cool. It's kind of crazy how much life speeds up,
Oh, yeah.
It just, whenever you have a community that takes pride in those individual relationships and just slowing life down, that's just one of the best things ever. Just hanging out on the porch, talking about the day, talking about the Lord. I mean, what else could you really want out of life?
Yeah, I go and sit on my neighbor's front porch in the rocking chair, whatever it is, and chat with them about how things are going on. And sometimes they yell at me, you're like, where you at? Come on over. I'm like, I got to do a few things, Because we have school and work, all these different things going on. But like, you know what? Take some time. Love the neighbors well.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you been up to, Ro?
What have I been up to? I am in my second to last semester of law school. I'm ready to be done, even though I love SMU. I'm kind of ready to get out. I'm ready to actually start working. But yeah, I'm in my second to last semester of law school, working on a book. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. What else have I been doing? I started serving in your neighborhood, actually. That's been a lot of fun. Working with small business owners down there. That's been great. It's been really rewarding. It's just been awesome, just because the level of enthusiasm is so much higher, and just their faith is so strong, and it's so much fun to be around them. And it's really a blessing to be a part of that. The Lord is doing something awesome in South Dallas, and just to be a cog in that machine is a huge blessing, I would say.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of that, we are at a church plant down there, and Rowe volunteers on Wednesday nights for the business cohort, which I went to for the first time on Wednesday because my class had a class that didn't get out till like 7, so I haven't been able to make it down. But I probably learned more about accounting and litigation or law stuff for small businesses than I knew, which is great.
Yeah.
I learned a lot in that sense, which is really important, obviously, for individuals down there trying to get a waffle business started up, or their mom and pop jam shop, or whatever it may be. Some of the businesses that I want to try, I just named. And hey, let's help them develop economically to pointing back to Christ, right?
Yeah.
Meet a need there so we can show them Christ and love them well.
And the first thing we talked about on the first day was that work existed before the fall. And so when we get to heaven, we're going to work. And there's something about work and how we can honor God through our work. And that's just, it's a beautiful thing to do, especially when someone decides that I'm going to take a risk, I'm going to work for myself, and I'm going to start my own company and chart my own path. there's something beautiful about that, especially because you can honor the Lord in the way that you do that. The way that you treat customers, the way that you pour into the people that work for you, the effort that you put in, you can honor the Lord through all of that. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's awesome to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, we are created to work, to glorify God through our work, and the idea of not working, and the idea of a 2-day weekend. Give me a 1-day Sabbath. I'm all about that. That's all I need. Sunday, day off. I've been turning off my phones on Sundays. My phone, not plural. My phone on Sunday. I just put it away, just spending time with God. That's been really refreshing as well. So part of the season, we've had a lot going on, but my wife and I are learning how to be like so filled up with things going on, but at the same time is, hey, let's keep time with God in the morning. Important time with prayer walks in the middle of the day, and then also making sure that Sabbath is solidified. So phones off, work's done, all this different stuff's done.
Yeah. So what does the Sabbath look like? I mean, you said you take time off and you spend time with the Lord. What does that look like from a practical standpoint?
That is a great question, Rowe. For myself, I like to spend Sunday mornings with God. And so we usually have church till 3:00, which is fantastic. I used to love having churches on Saturday night. Now I do it Sunday afternoon, which is wonderful. So I get to sleep in a little bit, go to a coffee shop with my wife, and just spend 2 or 3 hours in the Word praying. Usually I try and ask God some questions and kind of process that through Scripture. So like a little half day there is part of my Sabbath in that sense. Then we're going to work out or have some good food, take it easy, and go to church. But part of the thing on a Sabbath for me is I don't have to do anything. And that's what's most refreshing to me. I love doing things, but most refreshing is saying, I don't have to do anything. I'm going to spend time with God in that sense. And I should try and have a psalm in the evening or some sort of worship with my wife. Maybe some friends come over as well, and just do things. I think the biggest part of Sabbath is whatever I'm doing is saying, oh, God created this. God created this for me to do, to enjoy, and I'm going to glorify him through this, no matter what it is, and putting things back in their proper place.
Gotcha.
So that's what it just a reminder, refresher for the whole week.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this, because we're kind of going off the cuff here. What do you think the Lord's been teaching in the last week or two?
The last week or two. I think that's been, part of the Sabbath has been instilled, and that's been something I've seen for years. But recently with so much schoolwork, I've taken 14 hours of a master's program and work. I've got to the end of my ropes in that sense of what I can do. And I like doing a lot.
Yeah.
And so God's been really teaching me my finiteness. Okay. Is the best way to put that there. And just seeing, even though I'm finite, how much he loves me and cares for me. That's one of the biggest things there. I've just been reading through Proverbs, Psalms, and also part of the New Testament there in Corinthians, and seeing God's love towards, I'm small. And I was thinking even like, in Isaiah 40:31, even though he's talking about Israel, I really love this verse. It's recently stood out to me this week specifically, where it says, "But now, O Jacob, listen to the Lord who created you. O Israel, the one who formed you says, do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." Right? And so just recognizing that, man, I'm finite. I'm so small. I can't do that much, but yet God calls me by name. God named me. God formed me in my mother's womb, just like you as well. And so recognizing that, it's like, oh, I have an intimate relationship with the creator of the world who formed me, even though I'm so small and so finite. It's just been kind of blossoming in my head recently.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would say one of the things the Lord's been teaching me. So I went through 1st and 2nd Kings at the end of the fall. Yep. Really in the fall, I went through 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and that took up most of the fall. But so I finished with 1st and 2nd Kings, and I noticed this interesting pattern all throughout both those books. And that was that every time the Bible told the story of a king of Judah, which is where Jerusalem was, it said that he was it said he died and was buried in Jerusalem. So David, he died, was buried in the city of David, which is Jerusalem. Solomon, same thing. Rehoboam, same thing, all the way through. And every single king of Judah died and was buried in Jerusalem. And I thought that was a little strange. Like, why would the Bible keep saying that over and over? And then didn't really think much of it after that. I just went on to Matthew, and I read Matthew chapter 1, which is the genealogy of Jesus. It's just a list of names. And what was interesting is that when I read Matthew chapter 1, it has the lineage of Jesus, and Jesus comes from the line of David, which means that all of those kings of Judah that were talked about in 1st and 2nd Kings, those are Jesus's, great grandfathers, or however, many greats. Yep. So Jesus comes from those guys' bloodline. And it just kind of hit me that the only king in Jesus's bloodline that is not buried in Jerusalem is Jesus. And I just thought that was so cool, because it's a reminder he's alive, number one, he's still living and active, but that doesn't matter, how powerful someone may be in this life, whether they're a king, whether they're, homeless, it doesn't matter. We're all going to the same place. And, death is the great equalizer, but fortunately we get to serve a God who's overcome death and who's given us a life beyond death. And that was just such a cool reminder. It's just this odd little detail throughout 1st and 2nd Kings. And it's God used that odd little detail to show me just so much about his character and about the gospel. And I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah, and especially thinking about Easter was just last weekend, and Good Friday was last weekend, and thinking about his death and resurrection and what he's really done through that. I mean, and tying it back all the way through the Old Testament, and you're like, boom, boom, all the way throughout. Because, I mean, the latter half of the Old Testament is all about the kings, the prophets, people, Israel sinning against God. And Isaiah specifically is like, come on, Israel, I'm your savior. I want to redeem you. And comes a place with Christ in there. And ultimately will come at the end times. So,
yeah. I saw a video today, and it was talking about mathematically, what are the odds that someone could have fulfilled all of these prophecies in the way that Jesus did?
Yeah.
He's born of a virgin, born in the city of David. He was pierced, meaning they got him with the spear. He died with the criminals, was buried with the wealthy. All of these prophecies, and the math was that it would the chance of that happening is 1 in 10 to the 17th power, which I don't even know what you would call that number. But basically, if you filled,
it's really big.
If you filled the entire state of Texas with quarters, and then they dropped you out of a helicopter, and the first quarter you picked up is the one that you marked with an X. Like you just the chance of you picking a single quarter out of the entire state of Texas, that's the same chance that one person could have fulfilled all those Old Testament prophecies that Jesus fulfilled. And I don't know how they did the math on that, but nevertheless, the fact that he fulfilled all of those Old Testament prophecies is just so amazing to me. Like the level of detail that God went into before he sent his son is just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's greater than the trillions. I know that.
Yeah.
I don't know what's beyond the trillions or whatnot, but it's like 1/100 trillion, whatever it may be, right? Percentile. It's very, very small. I love that analogy there too. It's like, hey, just walk the whole state of Texas, Brandon picks down, grabs it.
Yeah.
And just what he's done for us there. But Rowe, so that's where we've kind of been. Let's say, what are I want to say about you, getting to know you, but what are the 3 most interesting facts about you? I love asking this question.
So this is actually funny because the first episode we ever did almost a year ago, we did the 3 most uninteresting facts about a person.
Well, now we're changing
do you remember that?
I remember that. Yeah,
remember that? Yeah. 3 most interesting facts. Wow. My parents live in the same house where they brought me home from the hospital when I was born. I think that's interesting.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Here we are, 65 years later, same place.
Now you gotta think of 3 interesting facts while I'm doing this because I'm gonna reciprocate the question.
Don't worry.
Okay, cool.
I'll be good.
Yeah. Let's see. Interesting facts. I'm in my 2nd year of law school, which isn't that interesting depending on who you ask. And then,
most people probably get bored reading all the books you're reading and doing the stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
But it is very cool that you enjoy that, and that's where you want to go to glorify God with. So it's an interesting fact about you. Yes.
Another interesting fact: I love to cook. That's kind of how I relax. But the problem is all of the things I cook, most of them, you can only make them in huge quantities.
Yeah.
So I always have a ton of leftovers. But I recently bought soup containers from Amazon. And just giving them out to out to friends. That's kind of how I relax. But yeah, what about you? Give me 3 interesting facts about you.
Interesting facts about Andrew Templeton. First and foremost, I speak Spanish.
Okay.
In that sense, and they looking at me, you're like, dude is white, like blonde hair, blue eyes, growing up,
red beard,
little red beard actually coming out, which is kind of funny. And I'm like, I don't even know where the red hair comes from, but sí, hablo español. Viví en España por un año. I lived in Spain for a year, teaching English, learned over there. Second interesting fact, kind of tied to that one as well. Wife and I plan is to be missionaries in the future. Like right now, we consider ourselves missionaries in South Dallas, in the Fair Park area, because the whole reason you brought it on there is to remind us to be on mission wherever we're at. Right? And it's, hey, if you walk in an area where you're like, I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel safe, I don't look like these people, XYZ going on, like, oh, that's right, I'm here because of Christ. Yeah. And so but we want to go to a Spanish-speaking country in the future after graduation. Is one of those. Third interesting fact about me is I love tacos. Just gotta share that, right? I don't know, kind of fun. Like I'm all about tacos, breakfast tacos, like barbacoa tacos. We'll have tacos for dinner, dessert tacos. I don't know, it's like the handhold aspect. Like you put it there, you eat it, stuff drips out, just amazing. Went to get tacos last night at Taqueria Pinoco, like Pinocchio, basically. And it was so cool because they had like 15 different types of meat in a case, and you're like, I want that one, and he just takes it, chops it real quick, throws it on a tortilla, passes it down the line, she puts it in a box, and then gives it to me. I was like, that took a minute. That was amazing. I did have 8 tacos. It was great.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So 2 things. First on the tacos, then on your second interesting fact. First thing on the tacos, I will proudly say, in the 2 years I've lived in Texas, the greatest taco I've had was at a gas station.
That's pretty typical, actually. Mom and pop shop, gas station.
Well, no, it wasn't it was Buc-ee's.
Oh, it was that doesn't count.
It was the breakfast tacos at Buc-ee's.
Oh, okay, breakfast tacos.
The breakfast tacos are phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's to your point about the tacos. Number 2, when you said how it's different to do ministry with people that look differently than you, that's so cool because I was thinking yesterday about the roster of the disciples all throughout the New Testament. Yep. We talk about just list off the 12 names. And it seems like just kind of a throwaway fact that they would just list out the 12 names of the disciples.
Yep.
But then you kind of dig into that roster. It's so interesting because a lot of those guys would have hated each other if Jesus wasn't in the equation.
Oh, 100%.
So like Matthew and or Simon, right? The zealot. Simon was a zealot. Yeah.
Simon the zealot.
Yeah.
Simon Peter, the fisherman.
Yeah.
Matthew the tax collector.
But it's like Matthew works. He was a tax collector. He works for the Roman government. Simon hated the Roman government.
Yeah.
So under normal circumstances, those two guys would have been at each other's throats. But then you add Jesus into the equation, and it works.
Yep.
Right. And then you've got Peter, you've got Judas. Those are two guys that are both going to betray Jesus the weekend he dies.
Yep.
Right. You just got this group of misfits, and the only reason it works is because Jesus is in the room. And I think that's like when it comes to ministry, and doing ministry with we're not called just to do ministry with people that just look like us all the time.
Yeah.
Because that would be kind of insular, and you're not actually really expanding. And so sharing the gospel and doing life with people that aren't exactly like us, that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun of being a Christian. Is you throw Jesus into that equation and it works. And under few other circumstances would that actually work, but it does because Jesus is there.
I know he's our commonality.
Yeah.
He's our foundation that we build life together on, do different things on, even though we may look differently or like have drastically different things we want to do with our lives.
Yeah.
Like not all my friends do CrossFit, but yet a lot of them are still friends with me. Crazy how it works.
That's right. I forgot. We're only what 20 minutes into this. You just now mentioned you do CrossFit.
You know what? That was not one of my interesting facts though. I took that out.
There you go.
Yeah, I took
works.
that out. I was to say though, that's in Acts when Jesus calls them to go, make disciples and go out there. What is he saying? He says Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth, right?
Yeah.
And I love that because I love how people broke this down, and this is not mine, but Jerusalem, people who live near you or look like you, right? Judea is people who live near you, but don't kind of look like you.
So you're widening the circle.
You're widening your circle at the ends, right? Then you live further to Samaria, people who are a little bit further away from you, who don't look like you and you don't like.
Yeah.
Put it that way, right? You're like, oh, called them, and then the ends of the earth is to drastically different cultures, drastically different people, and go out there.
Yeah.
And so just a little bit more for moving outwards to the people who look like me, think like me, all the way to people who don't look like me, or think like me, who are in different areas.
Or even speak different languages.
Exactly. Yeah.
I heard a story about Thomas, the disciple Thomas.
The doubting Thomas.
Jesus never called him that.
Isn't that so funny that we but that's how the church distinguishes him, because he doubted. And then that's when Christ says, blessed are those who believe but have not seen.
But, how many of us would have done the exact same thing? I probably would have done the exact same thing.
100%. And I feel bad for Thomas out there who are named after this guy. I'm like, he followed Jesus faithfully, had one little moment of like, I got to see it to believe it kind of a deal. And everyone's like, oh, he's a doubter. I'm like,
he was such a good, he's such a good disciple, because when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead and the Pharisees, that was basically the last straw. When Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, they were like, okay, we got to kill this guy.
Yep.
And so all the disciples, Jesus said, we're going to go back into Jerusalem. I'm paraphrasing. And the disciples were like, no, we probably shouldn't do that because they're going to kill you. And then Thomas speaks up and says, okay, then let's go die with him.
Yeah, I think there's a little sarcasm there. I hear a little bit, but he's like, okay, let's go die with you.
We're doing it. If they're going to kill him, we're doing it. And, and so he served Jesus faithfully. And even, this isn't in the Bible, but it's in church history, that Thomas went as far as India and even China and Pakistan. And he went farther than any of the other apostles.
I believe church history, that is correct. Going as far east.
And so
have the gospel in India.
There are people in India named Thomas, and a lot of people would say, today, there are a lot of people in India named Thomas, and a lot of people would attribute that to, going back 2,000 years to the Apostle Thomas. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Dang, that's really cool. So we talked about where we've been, who we are, kind of a deal, what's going on here. Where are we going? What's the game plan with the podcast from here on out? Next.
I have no idea, frankly. I love doing this. This is usually the most fun part of my week. we used to do this every week. When we did this before we got videographers and stuff, we did, which is still crazy to me, but we used to do this every Friday at Dallas Theological Seminary. And then, you bought a house, I started law school again, and then we started to get a little busy.
Yep.
So what we started doing, we took the hiatus, and then we started doing this, like, let's record a bunch of episodes at once. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're doing now.
4 changes of clothes, so it looks different.
Yeah, but I forgot to bring different shirts.
Me too this time.
But so, the podcast has changed a little bit since we started, but I think the core mission is the same, which is we love Jesus. Let's turn on the microphones and talk about how much we love Jesus and how he's impacted our lives. And then wherever God decides to send that is where it's going to go. And so that's kind of what my vision is for the podcast is whatever the Lord sees fit is going to happen.
Yeah, and typically part of it's coming from, I'll say, 2 Joe Blokes or 3 Joe Blokes, or maybe hopefully a female every so often, who aren't necessarily pastors, who don't work for a church, laymen in the church or whatnot, who just love God, love to be with Him, love to study Him in their free time, and just want to make Him known. And also that young adult perspective, right?
Yeah.
I'm a millennial. You're a millennial. Are you Gen Z actually?
No, I'm millennial.
Okay, I thought
because 96 is the last year.
Cut off. So, make it relevant to millennials and trying to get there to Gen Z, talking about relevant things that are going on in our lives in the world that need to be discussed from a Christian perspective, as well as the Bible at the same time, and kind of bringing that all together. Because I think a lot of, sometimes pastors are afraid on stage to bring in what's actually going on in the world and talk about it there. And I think it's very important to say, hey, this is how the Bible, this is how your theology, your study of God affects your life and affects what's going on around us in that. So bringing kind of relevant material, but keeping the truth of the gospel at the center of all of it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, so I'm definitely excited for this next little mini-series and talking about world events and maybe some end time stuff too. I don't know.
We're going to keep it light and talk about the end times. So
light and end times. I don't know how you do that, but we'll see what it is. Yeah. But hey guys, thanks for listening today. More stuff coming at you soon. Oh yeah, subscribe, click like, Spotify, YouTube, Pocket Cast where I'm at, because you can triple speed things and I love that.
What's that?
It's just another,
it's another podcast app. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, subscribe, like, post again on Instagram, share with your friends, and also comment what questions you have / what you'd like to see us discuss. That'd be very helpful for us.
That would be very helpful, because usually what we do is about 20 minutes before we start, we talk to each other. Hey, what do we want to talk about? And
then we have some few things ahead of time.
I know, I'm being facetious, but Okay, yes. I'm derailing us. Let's
Anyways,
yeah.
Next time. See you next time, guys.
See you next time.